Hi, I'm David Benz, Director with Hedgeye's Gaming, Lodging, and Leisure team. I'm joined in studio again with Todd Jordan, our Managing Director, also Gaming, Lodging, and Leisure. And we're here today to talk about Macau. Macau is 7 times larger than Las Vegas, and Todd's just returned from a 5-day trip to Macau to learn more about the gaming industry. It was 6 months ago since your last trip there, Todd.
Yeah, just about.
What's new today?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that there's so many more moving parts right now than there was last time I went. Last time, I think it was in December, everything looked great. You know, there were no worries or no blips on the radar screen. Now there's just a wall of worry. You've got VIP is a big concern. VIP is the high roller business that generally goes through junkets, middlemen, and everybody's worried that that business is falling off a cliff. There's union pay issues. There's
Smoking ban?
Smoking ban potentially, right. So there's just a lot of worries out there right now.
Okay. And when you're out meeting with the operators and they're talking about slowdown in the VIP business, slowdown in gaming, what's their mood today versus 6 months ago?
You know, it's interesting. I think the operators, the casino operators themselves, seem to be pretty optimistic about the business, and I think that's because they get most of their profits from mass. Even though it's less than 50% of revenues, it's higher than 50% of profits because you're not paying the middleman like you are in the VIP business where you're paying the junkets. When you talk to the junkets, they're definitely pessimistic. They've seen their business drop off a little bit. But one thing I pulled out of that, some of these meetings was, you know, I'm not sure the VIP business, it's definitely under pressure. I'm not sure it's as bad as people think.
Okay.
And the reason I'm saying that is I think they played, so the casinos themselves played unlucky in the first couple of weeks. So that's hurting the overall revenues.
For the audience's information, when you say unlucky, that means the house did not hold well.
Right, they did not hold as well as they normally would, pure the statistical odds of the game. But the other issue,
which means that the player won more.
The player won more, exactly. And the other issue is the World Cup, right? Which we always thought maybe that has a little impact. People are watching the World Cup; they're not betting as much. But as we found out, interesting, when I was out there, there was a big raid, and they cracked this illegal World Cup gambling ring that had. I was staying at Wynn Resorts or Wynn Macau, and that one of the buses was there. I guess a couple of rooms were being used. It wasn't me, I promise. There were a couple of rooms being used for this illegal betting scheme. There's also some people busted in Singapore. There were some people busted in mainland China. But we don't know the exact amount, but it seems like it was billions of Hong Kong dollars, which means that's probably money that would have otherwise been wagered on the VIP table, now was wagered on the World Cup. So that's also suppressing the performance. So yes, there are issues. There's some liquidity issues with the junkets, but maybe it's not as bad as people think.
Great. And so when we think about the opportunity for investing in the names, we have Wynn Resorts, we have Las Vegas Sands, MGM Resorts, via subsidiary, we have Melco Crown, and we have Galaxy.
Right.
What are your thoughts on the names?
Well, overall, I think we have, you know, at Hedgeye, we have 3 different durations we look at, right? Trade, trend, and tail. And I think for Macau, there's something for everybody. The trade, which would be the next 2 weeks to a month, I think is actually going to be positive for the reasons I mentioned, VIP not being as bad as maybe people think, mass continuing strong, but sentiment being a rock bottom. Right. The trend is what I'm a little bit more worried about, and that it stems from our view that the comparisons are getting a lot tougher even in the mass side. So right now you've got this dichotomy of sentiment. You got everybody loves the mass business,
right.
Everybody hates the VIP business. But what if mass business starts to slow? What does that do to the stocks? And we think it has a material impact on the stocks, and we see that happening as soon as maybe July, August. And if you look at last year, you had a big yielding up of the tables, meaning that the table minimums were raised. So the minimum bet that a player could bet went higher. So that means they necessarily have to wager more money. And you could see the mass business take off at that point. We don't think there's sustainability there. So now we're lapping that higher table minimums. That's going to result in difficult comps and decelerating growth, right? So that's really the trend call. The tail call is we like Macau long term. We think mass is going to continue to grow. It'll be a great long-term driver of growth. So having said all that from an industry perspective with the stocks, you know, I think from the long-term perspective, LVS is by far the best positioned, right? They own the mass business, and they're very strong in that mid-mass where you don't have to give away as much, so your margins are very, very strong. So that's the basic Chinese consumer getting richer and coming to Macau and spending money. That benefits LVS. I think over the near term, if you're going to play this trade that we're talking about, you know, MPEL has 100% exposure right now to Macau. Right, and this stock has been the one that's gotten hit the hardest. So, you know, presumably, if we're right and June wasn't as bad as we thought, and maybe the earnings are not as bad as people think, and they'll start reporting at the end of July, MPEL probably has the most near-term upside.
Okay. And what about, do you have thoughts on Galaxy?
Yeah, I think Galaxy. Well, first, Galaxy only trades on the Hong Kong exchange, right? So you have to play it there. But we're constructive on Galaxy. It's another company with a lot of exposure to Macau, almost 100% exposure to Macau. They're doing actually very well in the VIP segment, which is a segment of the business that they know very well historically. But they've also added a couple of junkets. I don't think they're being impacted as much by some of the liquidity issues we've seen with these junkets. So maybe their numbers, their market share certainly grown over the past couple of months. And then longer term, they are the first company to open up a new property as part of this big wave of new supply that'll be opening up in the second half of 2015, really through the first half of 2017, with about 5 properties, I think, opening up. They'll be number one, so they'll have that first mover advantage. So we're constructive on Galaxy.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts?
I think that's about it. I think if if you're a day trader, there's an opportunity for you. If you're a longer-term investor, this is certainly a place you want to be long-term. You just look for the right entry points. Okay.
I appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate the update. Todd Jordan, Managing Director of Hedgeye's Gaming, Lodging, and Leisure. I'm David Benz, Director of Gaming, Lodging, and Leisure. For more information, see us on Twitter at HedgeyeSnakeEye.